जन्मभूमिश्च स्वर्गादपि गरीयसी।
Good afternoon and welcome to Sagarmatha Television. Sagarmatha is the Nepali name for Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. It is also known as the rooftop of the world. Sagarmatha Television is the first Nepali television program ever to be produced and broadcasted outside of Nepal in the Nepalese history. Namaste, this is Indu Bokrail, your host for today's program. Before we begin, we would like to thank our supportive underwriters who helped make Sagarmatha Television possible in part. Welcome back to the program. As you know, the first segment of our show is Vivid Sangalo. This segment includes the national song, news from Nepal, community activities, entertainment, and much more. Vivid Sangalo will be followed by legal discussions. Well, viewers, let's not wait any further. Here is Vivid Sangalo presented to you by our producer, Mr. Ramchandra Karel.
आज फेरि तिम्रो यादमा अनिदो भो रात मेरो, कति कुरा भन्नु थियो अधुरो भो बात मेरो। सम्झनामा आउँछौ तिमी साउती मार्दै वरिपरि, रातैभरि सम्झी बसेँ कोल्टे फिर्दै घरिघरि। आज फेरि तिम्रो लागि टाढा भयो हात मेरो, कति कुरा भन्नु थियो अधुरो भो बात मेरो। आज फेरि तिम्रो पिरमा नहुने भो साथ मेरो, कति कुरा भन्नु थियो अधुरो भो बात मेरो, कति कुरा भन्नु थियो अधुरो भो बात मेरो। प्रशान एलोङ राईद्वारा लिखित कविताका यी केही हरफहरूसहित आजको विविध सङ्गालो कार्यक्रमबाट म सञ्चालक रामचन्द्र खरेलको नमस्कार। आदरणीय दर्शकवृन्द, आज डिसेम्बर 14 तारिक इस्वी सम्वत 2014, तदनुसार विक्रम सम्वत 2071 साल मङ्सिर 28 गते आइतबार अष्टमी तिथि। अब यहाँहरूलाई स्वागत छ आजको यो विविध सङ्गालो कार्यक्रममा। त दर्शकवृन्द, अब आउनुहोस् आजको विविध सङ्गालो कार्यक्रम सुरु गरौँ सदाझैँ यो एउटा नेपाली राष्ट्रिय गीतका साथ।
दिसले रगात मागे मलाई बलि चढाओ, रोँदैनन् मेरे आमा हुने पलेकी छोरी, रोँदैनन् मेरी आमा हुने पलेकी छोरी। देशले रगात मागे बुढेस काल का लाठी, देश यज्ञ भित्र होगी। मेरे बूढ़े आमा मुझमें हाँसे खुसी देखिन्छन्, देखा गराका सन्तान अझै मरेका छैनन्, तर चाबरी र बाँसघरी कुरी यमराजको शिर छिनाउने सारा पृथ्वीको सन्तान बहिनीको दूध हैन तर नेपालीको स्तन सक्दैन मात बाँच्न निर्धार भएर एकछिन बरु शहीद भएर अर्कै मृत्युमा मर्छु हामी बेर भएर मर्छौँ गोली तो सहन्छे माग्दैनन् सुनका अक्षर हुने पलेकी छु।
यो थियो सगरमाथा टेलिभिजनका पोखरा प्रतिनिधि घनश्याम लामिछानेबाट प्राप्त एउटा नेपाली राष्ट्रिय गीत। आदरणीय दर्शकवृन्द, सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन नेपालको इतिहासमा विदेशमा चलेको सबैभन्दा पहिलो नेपाली टेलिभिजन कार्यक्रम हो। सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन इस्वी सम्मत 1996 मा वर्ल्ड भ्यू टेलिभिजनमा सुरु भई अहिले MSG नेटवर्कबाट DC क्षेत्रमा नियमित रूपमा प्रसारण भइरहेको छ, जुन स्याटेलाइट मार्फत अमेरिकाभरि र वेबसाइट मार्फत संसारभरिका दर्शकहरू सामु पुगेको छ।
नेपाल हो नेपाल हो विश्वको शिर लाग्छ प्यारो गाउँ पाखाभी अगनीमा आमाको माया छ भन्छन् टाढा हुँदा मेरो मनमा नेपाल 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 दर्शन नेपाल दर्शन नेपाल दर्शन नेपाल दर्शन।
अहिले यहाँहरू हेर्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो हाम्रो दोस्रो प्रस्तुति नेपाल दर्शन टेलिभिजनको एक झलक। नेपाल दर्शन टेलिभिजन अहिले हरेक आइतबार दिउँसो 1:30 बजे अर्थात् यो कार्यक्रमको लगत्तीपछि यही MSG नेटवर्क्समा प्रसारण हुँदैछ। आशा छ यहाँहरूले अवश्य छुटाउनु हुने छैन। नेपाल दर्शन टेलिभिजनको मुख्य उद्देश्य हो नेपालको परिचय विदेशीहरूलाई दिई उनीहरूलाई नेपाल घुम्न आकर्षण गर्नु, अर्थात् नेपालको पर्यटन प्रवर्धनमा सहयोग पुर्याउनु। आदरणीय दर्शकवृन्द, यहाँहरूलाई थाहै छ कि केही हप्ता अघि अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति बराक ओबामाले इमिग्रेसन सम्बन्धी एक्जिक्युटिभ अर्डर प्रस्तुत गर्नुभएको थियो। गत हप्ता हामीले उक्त अर्डरमा के थियो भन्ने बारेमा वरिष्ठ कानुनविद्वय फिट्जजेरल्ड लुइस तथा वन्दिता शर्माको कुराकानी प्रस्तुत गरेका थियौँ। धेरै दर्शक महानुभावहरूको अनुरोधमा अब हामी पुनः प्रसारण गर्न गइरहेका छौँ उक्त कुराकानी।
Namaste viewers, this is Fitzgerald Lewis and
Namaste, this is Bandita Dahal.
And we are here to talk about the executive order recently issued by President Obama. So, first of all, let's talk about ourselves a little bit. I haven't been on the program for a long time. As many of the viewers know, I had been retired, but Ram is getting so many calls. So he had called me to see whether or not I can come on and talk about the executive order and how things are going on. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to, again, check back and see how things are happening. So I understand you are currently located in the Northeast area.
I've been in this area. I mean, I've been coming to Sagarmatha Television for maybe 2 months now. And every segment we've been giving immigration. We've been talking about various issues and immigration laws. So today I'm privileged to come here and a little nervous to be in front of you and talking about the executive order, which was recently announced by President Obama on November 20th. So,
well, viewers, one of the things that I do want to mention to you is that in this program we've always tried to make it so that this is not a solicitation of business. We don't want you to just come in simply to our firm, or in this case, actually, it's not even our firm, but the reality is to us, but to give you information. So that way when you're talking to your lawyers, your different immigration attorneys, you have knowledge about what questions to ask and whether or not you're being taken for a ride. In many cases, I know that one of the things that has been happening is, as I've been reading, right afterwards, there are so many notary publics.
Yeah, that's something that you, very rightly mentioned, Mr. Lewis, because one of the things that USCIS has been warning, or even training the attorneys, ELA attorneys, telling us to inform all the people in different areas, a different immigration background, is that be cautious, because right now policies are yet to come. There are so many things, like we are not sure. It has been announced, but many reforms and many policies, rules are yet to come, and there has no strict guidelines has been set yet. So whatever choice you make an informed choice. Understand what's going on, and just don't fall for the notarios who might,
And that's one of the main things to talk about is, to start off with, there is nothing, you shouldn't be hiring lawyers, you shouldn't be giving money to notary publics. First of all, there is no reason to deal with a notary public, because only an attorney can represent you legally under the laws of the United States. So that's the first thing. Secondly, there is nothing to be done right now. The executive order basically means the president has told the agency, in this case USCIS, to take certain actions. And the agency now has to issue regulations as to what actions they need to take, or what paperwork needs to be processed for people to be able to file, and what needs to be done. So there are standards that still need to be implemented. So I want to know more about you. This is the first time we are meeting. I'm pretty sure that the viewers want to know. And the good thing is today we have a lot of time, unlike the 2 or 3 or 4 minute segments we have on Sagarmatha. And so tell me more about you. I understand you're from Nepal. Yes.
About me or the policies? I'd
well,
rather
let's
be talking
talk about you first of all. Let's talk about your legal experience. And I understand in talking to you before that, you have been working on detention cases, meaning you've been going to different immigration courts and dealing with different judges. So what else have you been doing? What other type of cases?
Well, as to introduce myself, I'm always privileged to say that I would introduce myself as an immigrant first, because I'm an immigrant too. I came here maybe about 12 years ago now, 10 to 12 years ago, came here to pursue the education, and, completed my study here. I was a lawyer back in Nepal as well. And, after going through the bar exam and everything, I've been working with many clients from Nepal and South Asian region, and 90% of my clients are Nepalese. Mm-hmm. So having said that, I've been dealing with, I represent them in the court, I represent them with the USCIS, and I've been working on some employment cases, generally in litigations and family-based immigration. I do quite a lot of EB-1 cases as well. And as I was telling you about the detention case, yes, I do represent them in the bond hearing and all those aspects as well.
Right. So, and you were also mentioning that you have done family cases. So she's well versed in the family arena, in asylum. I think there are a few asylum cases that are still in the system. And of course litigation and immigration litigation, and of course employment-based cases. So here's a person who's fairly knowledgeable from your part of the world, who can speak your language, and feel free to call Ram whenever you have questions, and you'll be happy to answer those questions, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the law as such. Now, there was a big uproar between the Republicans, and can we go into what was the issue about the Senate bill versus what was happening in House, and what the presidential action means, so that people understand the difference, how a law is made between the two houses, the Congress and the House, and then the executive order. What's the difference, so people understand?
So, right now, when the announcement, the recent announcement that came, we are excited. At the same time, many people are like, it's not enough, because we are hoping for something more. We are hoping for reform. now this order that President has recently taken is because, he can't make law. As we know that in every system there is the executive, there is legislative, and then the judiciary. There's like 3 branches of the government. As a leader of an executive, he won't be able to make law. So what he has done right now, this is an executive order, because while he's waiting for the Congress, the legislative, to come out and make the law, this is something that he's preventing. Like, for example, these people are in the least priorities, they should not be deported first. So while they are here, what are the policies that we can do? Because everyone understands the immigration system right now is broken. Everyone understands that, border is not secure, and there have been people who have been waiting for years and years, even through the employment-based immigration and all those systems. So right now, what do we do? This is, I think, a baby step, but I think I'm still excited because at least there's something than nothing. And even within it, there are so many, we can go point by point, but there are so many positive things even within there. So
right. Yeah, so basically going back to, for a law to become the law of the land, basically the Congress means there is the Senate and there's the Congress, the House of Representatives. So these 2 parties or 2 houses or bodies of lawmakers, they have to agree to create a bill, and then that bill is then given to the president for signature. So previously what has happened, just to bring you historically to where we are today, there was an immigration bill that passed the Senate. The House bill never passed, or nothing has happened. It's been tabled. What it means is that there's never a vote that was done. And Mr. Obama has consistently asked that, do a yes or no vote on that particular immigration bill. And then he came in and said, look, if you guys are not going to do something, then whatever I can do within the limit framework of the current law, then I will take that. And that's what the executive order means, is basically what he's looking at is he took the current law and he's telling the agency, in this case USCIS, that you need to make certain changes to help the 15 or so million illegal people that are in the United States. The estimate is that I think 3 million or so will be affected.
Yeah, that would
roughly.
Be, right now I think 5 million, but the one that might qualify might be 3 million, considering
the ones who apply, because majority of the people or a number of people don't apply, even though they qualify. A number of people never apply. So that's what the estimate is with the USCIS. So let's talk about the executive order first of all. There was a DREAM Act a few months ago. And I've not been practicing law for some time now. So let's talk about, first of all, what was that DREAM Act, what it gave to the people.
So basically what happened was in 2012, there was another order. It was more like, who are the dreamers? Dreamers are young people who came here as a child and then they acquire something. They go to school. For them, it is their home. They've been here. They were brought up by their parents, maybe at the age of 6 and 7, or even earlier than that. They go to school and they are in the mainstream America, and then they consider themselves American, And then the reality hits when they hit to the college. They're like, you can't qualify for this loan. You can't be you can't get the job because you do not have a legal status.
Right.
So,
and many universities I know were not allowing them to go from high school onto universities because they were not legally present in the United States, right?
Yes. So for them, what that thing did, whatever came, the order that came, it's called DACA, which is, deferred action for child arrivals. So when they came, what that action did was, they had to be they had to come to US before 2007 July 15th, and if they were still under the age of 31, they could qualify for that if they were still in school. So they had to be studying something, and then what that would do was they could apply for work authorization, they could work, and so that was a big thing because it helped, I think, many people, and still, as Mr. Lewis said, many didn't apply for it. Many people who would qualify would not apply because they didn't have the resources or the information or the way, that's where our role comes in, because we are here to inform the people. Right. This is what's available. So, which was a big step for many people, but then it stopped the people who had already turned 31. you know, because there were still, like, you know, there were some people who were still studying, there were some people who still came here as a child, and now, even as a parent of the US citizen or the LPR, which is a legal permanent resident, there are many people who are inside here. So now this policy, what's different from that one that came is like, which is covering everything that they had and advancing it a little more. I think I would go like that.
Okay. So, do you know of people who did get? Because I know in our office, I was actually having during the Thanksgiving time, I was meeting this young girl, and she said, you know, she was at our house, and I said, oh, hi, how are you? She said, you don't know me, but I know you. I said, how come you know me? And she said, oh, your office applied for me, and because of that, I'm able to enjoy. She had a work authorization. And I think it was only good for next number of
2 years, 2 years at a time.
And she was talking about that it needs to be extended or whatever. So that was one thing.
Yes.
So you had to be under the age of 31. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
And number two, you had to be a student to qualify under that program.
Entered below the age of, like, you know, when you came in, you had to be under the age of 16 when you came in well.
When you did this. So now let's talk about the current executive order. It was recently done. We have already talked about the fact that the rules are not promulgated, so you cannot run in and start filing applications. So there's no need to be spending money. And of course, you will be coming back on this program and telling the viewers when this would be available. So let's talk about the executive order itself. Let's say that I am illegal in the United States. Give me the good news.
Undocumented, you mean?
Yeah, let's say, okay, undocumented. See, this always takes a lawyer to explain. So let's go back. So let's say I'm undocumented alien. Alien is a person who's not an American citizen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not an American and I'm undocumented. Tell me, what are my rights under this new promulgation?
So this one, like, you know, this particular rule that has come, it covers various sectors. So right now we're talking about, there are two things. One would be DACA, the one that we mentioned before. I mean, if I'd ask your age, how old are you? I'm not
Too
going to
old.
ask. I'm not going to ask you for that.
Thank you.
But then, you know, when, like, what are you doing when you came? And, you know, I'd look into all the criteria. I mean, we can explain all the requirements one by one as well.
Right.
So then, if you would qualify for DACA or not. And one thing that has been changed from the former DACA to now is initially it was for 2 years. Now it's every 3 years.
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, when I must have arrived in the United States.
Right now, for this new action, you should have arrived here 2010, January 31st. Before
Okay,
that.
so I have to be physically present, meaning in the United States, from January 1st,
2010.
2010. So I have to be here before that time.
Yes.
What happens if I just want to say that I was here? How does the government know?
You know, that's the most important thing that you ask, because
Okay.
whenever we are applying for it, we try to document everything. We try to collect. Look, so if you have been here, you must have lived somewhere, right?
Right.
Is there a lease? I mean, is there, like, you know, if you were here, did you enroll in any school? Can you provide all those proofs? Or maybe you visited a doctor. Like, is there a prescription that he prescribed you? Or is there, like, you know, do you have, I mean, many people come here, like, you know, they have a passport and everything. So do you have I-94 or the passport? Or in some cases, if it was EWI, which is entered without inspection.
Yeah, I was
then-
smuggled in, for example. If I was smuggled in through one of the bordering countries, what do I have to show?
So
them?
we have to show as much as possible documentation. In some cases, what, like, you know, some of the lawyers have done is even the pictures in front of, like, you know, if you were here, maybe pictures in some cases, if they're, like, you know, there's a date on it, maybe a little receipt that you went to the CVS store and bought something, you know. I mean, we try to pull as much as possible. If there's none, then even the affidavit of your neighbors saying that you lived in this area or you were here, like, you know, before that time. So we'll try to, I mean, one thing that you can do if you are thinking of applying anyway is start collecting documents now of
Right.
that you were here before 2010, January 1st.
Let me also caution the viewers on one thing. This is not the first time that this type of information has been required. Since '86, when President Reagan signed it, there was this farmers' cases that were done, and a lot of illegal activities took place. So please, make sure that you're not conjuring up documents, you're not faking documents. Because if it comes in, I have had situations where people got caught even after they were citizens and the US government went after them, not just simply taking and revoking their citizenships, but also putting them in jail. It's something that you should try to avoid. So that's the
Yes.
one thing. So let's say that I have been here for longer than or before
Required.
2010. What other things I have to do to be eligible under this program?
So you could be like, you could be in removal proceeding. That's like, that doesn't stop you.
So I
Like,
could be in deportation?
Yeah, you could be in deportation as
Okay.
well. So now what President Obama has done, like, November 20, he executed those orders, and November 21 also, like some part of it. He has now authorized all the agencies like ICE, which is like, Immigration and Custom Enforcement
Yes.
offices, and CBP and all those offices. Usually what happens is people are reluctant to go in front of the police because they are worried they might be deported.
Right.
But these people, they should not detain or they should not catch these people because those people can qualify for this benefit. So these agencies, even DHS, these agencies have been informed now. Like, if you fall into these criterias, then you might not, like, they might not detain you at the moment. Or even if your case is in the court, then they might do something to apply, like, to apply for the prosecutorial discretion and all those things as well. So those are the criterias.
So I could be in deportation, or I could be sitting home, or whatever. And what other things? Do I have to be married to someone? I have to have what other things do I have to do?
For DACA, no. But for DAPA, like, now we move on to DAPA. Another one is the parents accountability, which is deferred action for parents accountability.
Okay.
For that, there's a catch that you have to be a parent of a lawful permanent resident or a citizen.
Okay, so I have to have a child, I guess.
Yes.
So the first thing is for children who are or people under the age of 31, do they have to be still in school or no?
They some kind of school, yes. They might have to be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the high school or something, but they have to be studying something.
Some education
Yeah, some
institution.
education.
And the second one is for regular people, and they have to be present since 2010, am I correct?
Yes, January 1st.
And number two is not only should they be present, but they also need to have a child who is either a green card holder or a citizen of the
Yes.
United States, right?
Yes.
That's what I have
That's
to do.
what, yeah.
So once I have these two things, I've been here since 2010, and I have a child who is a green card holder or a citizen, what benefit do I get?
And also one thing, like they also look into your background check as well. So
Okay.
make sure that, if there is any criminal activities involved or not. So that's one thing that would prevent you from getting many of these benefits.
What happens if I have a misdemeanor, I shoplifted?
This is a little tricky question because it is like, state to state as well. I would not generalize these topics. We have to work into each and every of the crime. Like, if there's any criminal activities, you have to talk to an experienced attorney to find out whether it's like federal or like, whether it's crime against moral turpitude or whether what kind of crime it is. You have to look into that.
Okay. And so what's the benefit? I have never been arrested. I've been here since 2010. I have a child who was born in the United States. What do I get?
So you apply for it, and then you get authorization to work. This will let you work for 3 years at a time. You apply now, and although they have been taking out you would not be able to get any public benefits.
Okay.
You would be able to get the work authorization. In some state, you might be able to get the driver's license and everything also. That would be state-specific issues.
Right.
And you will not be able to get any federal funded, Medicaid or Medicare, just because you do have that's DAPA status. So
Okay.
those things you have
So
to
it allows me to have some type of, not necessarily legal status, but some umbrella that covers me. So if I'm stopped by the police or the government, I can show them that I have some document. I can go to my employer, I guess, and give them the document saying that I'm authorized to work.
Yeah.
What about taxes? Am I required to pay taxes?
Generally, yes, you are required to pay taxes, even the people, because it's an open truth that everybody who's here, they do work in odd jobs as well. And even if you do not have any documentation, applying for even if you do not have the social security, applying for 10, like, tax ID number and paying the tax always helps in a long run, because that would also be one way of proving that you were in the country during that time also, I mean, there might be some people who are already doing it.
Okay, so those are the things. So the benefit basically is I am able to get a work authorization. Am I able to travel back to my home country or no?
I am not very sure about that at the moment, just because that is not it is your work authorization, but not the travel document. So we are still waiting for those policies to come to
out.
see.
My understanding is basically because this document is not giving you legal status in the U.S., it doesn't change you from unlawful to lawful. So based on my discussions with a couple of other people, it's my understanding that will have no impact. And of course, if you do leave the country, you will have the 10-year bar that would apply. That only stops applying once you get your green card, and that would not be the case. So that's one thing. Now let's talk about, I am an extraordinary person. And before there was no standard. I mean, the funny part was when I was practicing law, a person would say to me, well, do I qualify? And they would have that many stack of documents. And I said, well, I don't know. And they will say, well, here's another person, and she only has this many stack of documents, but she got her green card. And as an attorney, I would say, I will try my best. So is there something?
You're talking about the EB-1?
Yeah, I'm talking about any national interest waiver, EB-1. Is there any new qualifications that are coming up under this program?
So my understanding so far is what they have done. So this was for I mean, what we talked about was the people who are here unlawfully. So these measures.
Right.
But then the another step is whole idea behind this reform is they want to retain the people who are educated people, who are qualified people, who've been to the universities here. Their whole idea is to keep them here so that they're going to make impact in this country, the education they have acquired here,
Positive impact on the economy.
And so what they're trying to do is the visa period, employment-based immigration, the waiting period, especially from some people like, countries like India. I mean, for Nepal, still now we don't have that much waiting period, but they are working on, maybe minimizing those lines. Or even for the spouse of the H1, they are authorizing, giving some kind of documentation so that
they will be able to
work.
get work authorization, the H1B. So if you are on an
H4.
H1B, then
H4,
or H4, then you would be able to get work authorization. The other thing is these investors. Basically, they're trying to the EB-5 visas were not being used, so they're trying to implement regulations that actually would be helpful for investors. And I think the other thing that when I was reading and thinking about what to talk about on this program, one of the things was the fact that that they are going to implement regulations and set standards as what qualifies for national interest or not qualifies for national interest. So those are the type of things. Would you like to add anything else?
Provisional waiver too, because there is another thing. Usually what happens is we know that whenever people come here, they come, they have a passport, I-94. They come here, and even when their status, they stay here out of status and eventually marry a U.S. citizen, they can adjust here. However, the people who enter without inspection, they cannot adjust in U.S. regardless of whether they are married here or whether they have U.S. citizens children. So they would not do that. But now, I mean, last year they issued something called the provisional waiver when they can apply, the people who entered without EWI, which we usually call.
Entry without inspection.
So they would apply for the provisional waiver here, and then they usually have the bar, right? The 3 years bar. If you are here for more than 180 days, 3 years bar. If you're here for more than 1 year, 10 years bar. Correct. So initially, the people would have to go back, consular processing, and they don't know when to come, when they would come. So they would separate from the family. But last year, the new policy allowed them to apply for the provisional waiver over here. And then when the provisional waiver was approved, then they would go back to their country and then come back. So that was the policy that happened last year. Now, that has been enacted even to the spouse of an LPR, which is a big thing, right? Not only to the citizen, but the children and the spouse of LPR. So
I think we have taken enough time, and we've talked about the fact that number one, the executive order is out. Number two, there are no rules that basically tells you which document you must file, when you must file, what's the filing fee, where you file it, how long it's going to take. All of these are going to be coming in, and certainly you will be coming back on the program and talking about these issues.
as per the discussion today, you have heard that, at least there's something for us to be happy about. There are new policies coming in. And you have heard many discussions saying whether it's amnesty or not, and whether this policy would be like, we have heard discussion from the both sides saying that it is rewarding people who violated the law, and it is like if this continues, then more people who are undocumented or as called illegal people would come in, and they would it would attract them. But the fact is, this thing, there has been many changes, like Mr. Lewis mentioned as well, because it has been historically, in every president has done something to promote, or for immigration issues, new policies, new rules, and new laws have always come. And this one is not the amnesty or not the green card or the citizenship, because president does not have an authority to give citizenship or the green card. It's just an order that's going to benefit the country as in reward, because what will happen when all these people who've been working in odd job start paying taxes? It's going to benefit the country eventually. That is the whole idea. And one thing is, even for us, even for people who've been practicing, even for immigration lawyers, we are looking into it. We have been attending many conferences, we've been reading many papers, and even even we do not agree in certain points. So that means that these things are very technical. So always try to get help from somebody who knows it, so that any small thing that you commit does not commit to be a fraud. Any innocent mistake eventually does not restrict you from getting the benefit eventually. So that's the information I wanted to say. And thank you so much for Sagarmatha Television for giving us this platform, so we can inform our community about what's in there.
Amen. And for now, we want to say goodbye and God bless.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
यो थियो अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति बराक ओबामाले प्रस्तुत गर्नुभएको एक्जिक्युटिभ अर्डरमा के थियो त भन्ने सम्बन्धी जानकारी। आदरणीय दर्शकवृन्द, अब पालो छ ट्याक्स सम्बन्धी जानकारीको, जसलाई प्रस्तुत गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ सिपिए द्वय हरि शर्मा तथा विराज रिजाल।
हजुर नमस्कार, म विराज रिजाल, सिपिए स्टुअर्ट एन्ड रिजाल सिपिए फर्म एन्ड ट्याक्स अजा एकाउन्टिङको तर्फबाट।
नमस्कार, म हरि शर्मा, सिपिए क्रुल अकाउन्टिङ सर्भिसेसको तर्फबाट।
दर्शकवृन्द, यहाँहरूलाई हामीले ट्याक्स सम्बन्धी जानकारी गराउने क्रममा यसपालि अलि नयाँ टपिक्स हाउ टु स्टार्ट बिजनेस इन अमेरिका भन्ने टपिक्स लिएर आएका छौँ। यहाँहरूको लागि केही विशेष विस्तृत जानकारी हरि शर्माज्यूले गराउँदै हुनुहुन्छ।
हजुर, हामी प्राय सबैजसो चाहिँ नि एक कुरामा चाहिँ सहमत हुन्छौँ कि आफ्नो बिजनेस भनेको कुरो चाहिँ नि देयर इज नथिङ बेटर देन रनिङ अथवा ओनिङ यर ओन बिजनेस। यदि हामीले चाहिँ नि प्रपरली त्यो बिजनेसलाई चाहिँ एक्जिक्युट गर्न सकेको खण्डमा, त्यस कारणले आजको दिनमा हामी चाहिँ नि यो स्टार्टिङ अ न्यू बिजनेसको विषयमा चाहिँ कुरा गर्न गइरहेका छौँ। यो न्यू बिजनेस भन्ने किसिमको कुरो चाहिँ नि कस्तो किसिमको बिजनेस चाहिँ तपाईको लागि मोर एप्रोप्रिएट होला भन्ने किसिमको कुरोमा चाहिँ तपाईको अब्जेक्टिभ के हो, प्रोडक्ट क्लासिफिकेसन कोड के हो, आईआरएसले दिएको अनुसार चाहिँ नि कस्तो किसिमको बिजनेस गर्न खोज्नु भएको छ, र त्यो तपाईको निड अनुसार चाहिँ नि मोस्ट एप्रोप्रिएट चाहिँ नि कस्तो किसिमको चाहिँ नि बिजनेस अर्गनाइजेसन चाहिँ नि सम्भव हुन सक्छ, जुन तपाईको चाहिँ नि सेट गरेको गोललाई चाहिँ अकम्प्लिस गर्नको लागि भन्ने किसिमको कुरो चाहिँ नि निकै चुनौतीपूर्ण हुन सक्छ, हैन त?
हजुर, अवश्य। अनि यसमा मैले यो प्र्याक्टिसमा देख्दिनँ। यहाँहरूले अवश्य पनि बिजनेस सुरु गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि बिजनेस प्लान बनाउनु होला। बिजनेस प्लानमा डिटेल फाइनेन्सियल इन्फर्मेसन, तपाईँको लाइसेन्स रिक्वायरमेन्ट, प्रडक्ट कहाँ गर्ने, मार्केटिङका कुराहरू, फाइनेन्सका कुराहरू सारा पर्दछन्। त्यसैले बिजनेस प्लान बनाउनु स्टार्टिङ बिजनेसको लागि महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ। यसको साथसाथै यहाँले आफूलाई कर्पोरेट लयर र सिपिए राखेर आफ्ना सबै विभिन्न कुराहरू आफूलाई कस्तो खालको बिजनेस गर्न चाहेको हो, के गर्न चाहेको हो, सारा खुलस्त रूपमा बताएर आफ्नो बिजनेसको सुरुवात गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। होइन त हरि शर्माजी?
हजुर, एकदम सही हो। कुरो के भनेदेखि हामीले अघि भनिहाल्यौँ बिजनेस जस्तो चाहिँ नि अर्काको लागि काम गरेर अथवा स्यालेरी को चाहिँ नि हुन सक्दैन भनेर। तर एट द सेम टाइम यो बिजनेस भन्ने कुरो साह्रै नै चुनौतीपूर्ण छ। हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा हामीले धेरैको देखेका छौँ कि चाहिँ नि उहाँहरूले सोच्नु भएको हुन्छ कि बिजनेस भन्दा साथ सबै सक्सेसै हुन्छन् भन्ने किसिमको कुरो होइन। फेलियर रेट पनि अमेरिकामा निकै हाई छ। त्यसरी आफ्नो चाहिँ नि लाइफ टाइम सेभिङलाई चाहिँ लगानी गरेर तपाईँले चाहिँ नि एउटा बिजनेस सुरु गर्नुहुन्छ भनेदेखि त्यो बिजनेस चाहिँ नि तपाईँले इनफ ड्यु डिलिजेन्स र इनफ किसिमको चाहिँ नि रिसर्च, इनफ किसिमको चाहिँ नि प्लानिङहरू सबै थोक गरेर चाहिँ नि गर्नुभयो भनेदेखि तपाईँ त्यसमा सक्सेस हुन सक्नुहुन्छ। तर ती कुराहरू बेसिक कुराहरू चाहिँ नि नगरिकन त्यसै बिजनेसमा हामी फाल्दाखेरि हामीलाई दुःखलाग्दो किसिमको फेलियरहरू पनि हामीले हाम्रो समाजमा देखेका छौँ। त्यसकारणले हाम्रो अपिल तपाईँलाई के छ त भन्दाखेरि यसरी बिजनेस सुरु गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि एउटा कम्पिटेन्ट प्रोफेसनलहरूलाई चाहिँ कन्सल्ट गरेर तपाईँको कस्तो किसिमको अब्जेक्टिभ हो, त्यो अब्जेक्टिभलाई अकम्प्लिस गर्न कलेक्टिभली कसरी चाहिँ नि जान सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ नि एउटा प्लान गरेर गयो भने सजिलो होला हैन त?
हजुर, अवश्य पनि हामीले अर्को टपिक्समा यहाँलाई यो बिजनेस सम्बन्धी नै यसका अरू कुराहरू लिएर आउनेछौँ। आजलाई बिदा पाऊँ। विराज रिजाल, सिपिए।
नमस्कार, हरि शर्मा, सिपिए।
सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन।
Namaste, I'm Risa. You're watching Sagarmatha Television.
अमेरिका नेपाल वुमेन्स एसोसिएसन अफ ग्रेटर वाशिंगटन डीसीद्वारा सञ्चालित निशुल्क स्वास्थ्य शिविरमा डाक्टर महेश्वर वैद्य, आर्यन मन्जु सङ्ग्रौला तथा आर्यन सुनिता श्रेष्ठ सहितको टोलीले निशुल्क स्वास्थ्य सेवा उपलब्ध गराइरहेको हुँदा उक्त सेवाको उपयोग गर्न यस स्क्रिनमा भएका नम्बरहरूमा सम्पर्क गर्नुहोला।
सन् 2007 देखि डीसी मेट्रो क्षेत्रबाट नियमित प्रकाशित भइरहेको नेपाली समुदायका गतिविधि, समाचार र सूचनाको संवाहक पाक्षिक अखबार विश्व परिक्रमा। यसलाई घरमै प्राप्त गर्न सम्पर्क गर्नुहोस्।
अलिकति तब हाल्दै हुनुहुन्छ सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन।
आदरणीय दर्शकवृन्द, हामी आजको यो विविध सङ्गालो कार्यक्रमको अन्त्यतिर आइपुगेका छौँ। दर्शकवृन्द, सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन तथा नेपाल दर्शन टेलिभिजन तपाईँहरूको सहयोग, सल्लाह, सुझाव तथा प्रतिक्रियाको सधैँ अपेक्षा गर्दछ, जसका लागि हाम्रो ठेगाना हो सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन, PO बक्स 1400, लोर्टन, भर्जिनिया 22079। हाम्रो इमेल ठेगाना हो info@nepaltvusa.com। हामीलाई फोन गर्न सक्नुहुनेछ। हाम्रो फोन नम्बर हो 703-926-9530। हस्त दर्शकवृन्द, अब यहाँहरू समक्ष नेपाल टुरिज्म बोर्ड काठमाडौँ नेपालबाट प्राप्त नेपालका केही रमणीय दृश्यहरू प्रस्तुत गर्दै आजको यो विविध सङ्गालो कार्यक्रमबाट म सञ्चालक रामचन्द्र खरेल बिदा चाहन्छु। आगामी कार्यक्रमसम्मका लागि बिदा दिनुहोस्। नमस्ते।
Nepal is a great place for tourism. I'm happy to tell you that America, especially the United States, ranks third in sending tourists to Nepal after India and China. One of the main reasons why people go to Nepal is definitely we have big mountains, huge mountains. It's not only that, Nepal is also a birthplace of Lord Gautam Buddha. We have one of the best highly competitive safaris in the world, especially in the southern part of Nepal. 24% of Nepal's land area are reserved for national parks. So, and then about 10 World Heritage sites are in Nepal. So there are numerous advantages of Nepal. So lots of tourists, not only from US but all over the world, they would like to go to Nepal. And thank you for coming to Nepal, and we hope to see more Americans going to Nepal. It is good to know that Sagarmatha Television is initiating the Nepal Darshan Television, which has been excellent. I have seen the program. I wish you the best for the future endeavor.
नमस्कार, म दुर्गा प्रसाद बुर्तेल, एटर्नी एट ल, बुर्तेल ल फर्म, र म न्युयोर्कमा प्र्याक्टिस गर्दै आइरहेको छु। दर्शक महानुभावहरू, र गत हप्ता मैले तपाईँलाई एक्सिडेन्टको बारेमा के गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुराहरू मैले बताइसकेको छु। अब यो हप्ता मैले तपाईँहरूलाई केही भिन्न किसिमको तर एक्सिडेन्ट रिलेटेड कुरा तर भिन्न किसिमको कुराको बारेमा म तपाईँलाई छलफल गर्न गइरहेको छु। त्यो के हो भने यदि कोही मान्छे ओभरस्टे छ अथवा कोही मान्छे लिगल स्ट्याटसमा छैन अथवा F1 मा छ अथवा B1 मा छ भनी त्यस्तो मान्छेले चाहिँ मुद्दा ल्याउन सक्छ कि सक्दैन अथवा त्यस्तो मान्छेले के गर्ने त के हो त सिचुएसन भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ धेरै मान्छेहरूलाई क्वेसन हुन सक्छ। म त्यसको बारेमा अलिकति तपाईलाई छलफल गर्न चाहन्छु आज। अब यो बेसिकली इमिग्रेसन ल भनेको फेडरल ल हो दर्शक महानुभाव। फेडरल लले चाहिँ कुनै पनि मान्छेलाई ओभरस्टे अथवा चाहिँ भिसा भनौँ न B1, B2, F1 अथवा कुनैमा भएको मान्छे भन्ने कुराले डिस्क्रिमिनेसन यस्तो प्राइभेट लिटिगेसन गर्नमा डिस्क्रिमिनेसन गर्दैन। जहाँसम्म स्टेट लको कुरा छ, तपाईँ कुन स्टेटमा बस्नुभएको छ त्यसमा भर पर्छ। अर्को एउटा सेकेन्ड कुरा के भने जनरली तपाईँको हरेक स्टेटमा जनरली चाहिँ यस्ता एक्सिडेन्ट केसहरूमा स्टाटस तपाईँ कुन स्टाटसमा हुनुहुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू मुद्दा ल्याउने क्रममा चाहिँ फरक पर्दैन। किन पर्दैन भने त्यो चाहिँ इमिग्रेसन रिलेटेड कुरा होइन र यो चाहिँ स्टेट रिलेटेड र प्रपर्टी राइट प्राइभेट राइट सम्बन्धी कुरा भएको हुनाले। दोस्रो कुरा चाहिँ एउटै कुरा मात्रै तपाईँ अब यो जस्तो कि के हुन्छ भने पर्सनल इन्जुरीमा धेरै किसिमका ड्यामेज हुन्छन्। ड्यामेज भनेको जस्तो कि तपाईँ भन्नु न इन्जुरी भइसकेपछि तपाईँलाई सबैभन्दा पहिला काममा गइराख्नु भएको थियो भने काम गर्न पाउनु भएन, लस अफ वेजेस भयो त्यो। अनि त्यसपछि अझ इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ तपाईँ हस्पिटल डक्टर कहाँ जानु पर्यो, बिलहरू आयो, मेडिकल बिलहरू आयो, के गर्ने अब त्यो सबै तिर्नु पर्यो नि। अनि त्यसपछि आइसकेपछि तपाईँलाई चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने हाउस होल्ड सर्भिसेस हुन्छ, घरको काम गर्नुहुन्थ्यो घरको काम गर्न पाउनु भएन। अनि त्यसपछि तपाईँको अर्को के हुन्छ भने अब त्यसमा पनि पास्ट हुन्छ फ्युचर हुन्छ। अनि मेनली आउँछ पेन एन्ड सफरिङ। पेन एन्ड सफरिङ भनेको तपाईँलाई दुखेको पैसा, दुख्यो कति सफर भयो, कस्तो जीवन भयो त तपाईँलाई, कतिको गाह्रो भयो त। यी सबै कुराहरूमा यदि तपाईँ ओभरस्टे हो र यदि तपाईँलाई चाहिँ लिगल स्ट्याटस छैन भने त्यो कुरामा चाहिँ अब स्टेटमा भर पर्छ। अब म तपाईँलाई फेरि पनि भनिरहेको छु स्टेट वाइज भर पर्छ। त्यस्तो अवस्थामा तपाईँलाई फ्युचर लस अफ वेजेसको कुरा मात्रै इस्यु आउँछ। किनभने तपाईँ त लिगल्ली काम गर्न पाउने अधिकारै छैन अमेरिकामा भने लस अफ वेजेस काम गर्न पाउने अधिकारको बराबरको पैसा चाहिँ त्यो मात्रै चाहिँ सेपरेट हुनसक्छ। त्यो बाहेक अरू जस्तो कि तपाईँको मेडिकल बिल, पास्ट मेडिकल बिल, फ्युचर मेडिकल बिल, पेन एन्ड सफरिङ अनि लस अफ वेजेस। लस अफ वेजेस चाहिँ के को आधारमा पाउने भने तपाईले अमेरिकाको आधारमा नपाउन सक्नुहुन्छ तर नेपालको आधारमा स्टिल तपाईले पाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। किनभने जुन देशमा तपाईँ गएर काम गर्न सक्नुहुन्थ्यो, जे काम गरेर तपाईँले कमाउनु पर्ने हुन्थ्यो त्यो कमाउन सक्नु भएन भने तपाईँले स्टिल यु क्यान क्लेम भने त्यो प्रक्रिया अन्तर्गतको ल अहिलेसम्म चाहिँ युएसमा हामीले देखिन्छ। त्यसो हुनाले दर्शक महानुभावहरू तपाईँ ओभरस्टे हुनुहुन्छ भने पनि अथवा इलिगल स्ट्याटसमा छैन भने पनि तपाईँले मेक स्योर गर्नुहोस् लयरसँग सल्लाह गरेर आफ्नो राइट आफ्नो प्रोटेक्सन कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुराको बारेमा क्लियर गरेर अगाडि बढ्नलाई म चाहिँ तपाईँहरूलाई सजेसन गर्छु। यदि तपाईँलाई केही क्वेसन भयो त्यस्तो अवस्थामा भने सगरमाथा टेलिभिजनमा सम्पर्क गर्नुहोला अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँबाट आएको क्वेसन फेरि कमिङ एपिसोडमा मैले कुनै प्रश्न उत्तर कार्यक्रममा तपाईँहरूलाई जवाफ दिने म जमर्को गर्नेछु। यसपालालाई बिदा हुन चाहन्छु। दर्शक महानुभाव नमस्कार।
Sagarmatha Television.
Well, viewers, that's all for you today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Sagarmatha Television. Stay tuned to watch Nepal Darshan Television right after this show, right here on MHC Networks. Now, we would like to conclude today's program with this beautiful Nepali song. See you all next week. Until then, this is Indu Pokhral saying goodbye and namaste.